Welcome to Rick's Corner, brought to you by Old School Labs, the brand I trust and the only one I put my name to. Use my code DRAYSON12 on the link below.
Welcome to Rick's Corner. The man, the myth, the legend. Now on with the show.
Welcome to Rick's Corner. I got Jerry Brainum back by public demand. You always ask me to bring Jerry on, and this guy is the guru of bodybuilding, has a ton of knowledge, and we like to share thoughts with you, and I hope you guys appreciate it because he comes all the way from the beach over here, which is about 300-mile round trip. It's a long drive on the 405 freeway. It's a nightmare.
On the 405, it seems like 300.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. But he comes to share his time with me and you. And for all you YouTube haters out there, turn it off. We don't like you anyway. Screw you. And this is why I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
So we were talking about certain issues, and there's always subjects you can come up with and talk about. And I was thinking about, everybody wants to know how everybody trained back in the day. All right, so you had two guys. Who's the two guys we're going to discuss?
Well, we have Waller and Columbu and Arnold and
Zane.
Zane.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, these guys all trained for the Olympia.
Right.
All winners in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Arnold trained one way and Zane trained another, right?
That's correct.
What do you think the difference was in their training?
Well, I think that Zane was he was more concerned with much more concerned with refining.
Right.
Zane, everything he did was to like really bring his muscle definition out to shape and refinement.
Right.
He trained for a certain peak. Mm-hmm. In fact, you might remember we used to joke about how I think it was the one of the NABI universes that Zane won in maybe the early '70s, where I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks before the show. He looked awful.
Right.
He was smooth.
I think it was called him the pump artist.
Yeah, and I remember going up to him and I said, Frank, are you still going to compete in that NABI universe? And he says, yeah, why? And I don't want to say anything because he looked, Frank never got fat or anything,
No.
but there was no muscle definition. And then, he goes in the gym, he does this like very intense training. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you a little anecdote to show just how intense it was. There was a time, around the same time he was training for, it might have been it wasn't the Olympia, it was one of the NABI shows. I think he was competing in the NABI shows in those days. This is the very early 70s. And I went up to I was preparing for, I think, a Mr. California contest. And I knew Frank. He lived right next door to me. He was in apartment 10. I was in apartment 11.
I remember that, yeah.
That's how close we were. He was actually in the next apartment.
Right across from the gym.
Well, yeah. Well, it was on Bay Street.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yes. Of
right,
course.
remember that? Yeah. So I went up to him in the gym. I said, and I wanted to ask him a quick diet question. Now, I knew better. I know when a guy's training for a show, you don't get in conversations. That existed back then and exists today. Don't bother a guy when he's training, seriously. That's very annoying.
Yeah.
But I figured, he looked like he was resting. And I said, hey, Frank, and he went like this. He holds up his hand, and he says, if you want to talk to me, make an appointment.
I would have said if he held up his hand, yes, you can talk. No. What's your question, Frank?
Well, he's a teacher. You remember?
Yeah.
He actually was
no. You can say yes. You can go to the bathroom.
He was teaching at the time,
Yeah.
But so I said, unfortunately for me and him, I was on a ketogenic, what they call a ketogenic diet, like 0 carbs.
Yeah.
And my nerves, and I made the mistake at that time of also reducing my fat intake to nothing, which is a terrible mistake.
Right.
But back then I didn't know what I was doing in comparison to today.
Right.
So my nerves were on edge.
Yeah.
And I just flipped out. And I was taking no steroids. It wasn't a question of roid rage.
Right.
I just went crazy. And I called him every name in the book. And I said, let's go outside now. I will beat the shit out of you, blah, blah, blah. And Zane just stood there staring at me. He didn't say a word. He stared at me. And the rest of the story is we didn't talk for 4 or 5 years. He would just walk right by me, never acknowledge me. And then one day I went to a contest, and he had a booth. I think he was selling his courses. And I figured, okay, he's not going to talk to me. I walked by and he said, hey, Jerry, how you doing? It was Frank,
He got over it.
Yeah, and we never mentioned the argument, never said anything, and was friends to this day.
He didn't really train heavy.
Never trained heavy.
No,
he never trained heavy, but it was every movement was precise.
Yes.
Very good form, no cheating, no throwing around, and he really did a lot of that.
But so did Arnold.
It's true.
He had good form too, but Arnold trained heavier.
Arnold trained heavier, and Arnold also, I think, did more. I think the biggest difference between the two was in the actual volume of exercise. I think that Arnold did about maybe 15%. In other words, if the average number of sets per exercise was 6, Zane would do 4 and Arnold would do 6.
Okay.
That was the main difference with volume. The actual training style was similar.
Yeah.
I mean, both these guys train very hard. I always tell people when they ask me, do these guys train hard all year round? I said 3 months before a contest, very serious. I mean, Arnold, they still joke a little bit. Don't get me wrong.
Arnold more than Zane.
Yeah, it's not like they've become monks or anything,
Right.
But I mean, Zane was very serious.
Very.
Zane, I mean, the only time I ever saw Zane lighten up, and this is another quick story, is, again, I live right next door to him. There was a guy who used to sell pot. He used to come around, right? Mm-hmm. And Zane kept his marijuana store or pot stored in one of his it had an empty bottom.
Yeah.
He would stick these plastic bags inside the trophy.
Yeah.
I guess he thought in case he got raided that nobody would suspect it's inside a trophy that says Miss Universe, right?
Yeah.
So I was over there one day, and I have to understand, this is before a show. I think it was before the Universe, and it was me, Frank, his wife Christine, and this other guy named Jimmy, and we're all sitting there, and Frank was his usual stiff self. I mean, it looked like he had no sense of him. Somebody would crack a joke, and he would just kind of look at you. No reaction. And then we started smoking the joints, right? He brought out the joint. And it was like Jekyll and Hyde, Rick. I'm telling you, within about maybe 20 minutes, suddenly his whole personality changed. He's laughing and he's smiling, and I remember like looking at him like, is this really Frank Zane?
Yeah.
I mean, his whole personality changed.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously the marijuana it reduced his inhibition to the point, But Zane, I don't want to act like Zane is a good man. He's a good person.
He's a great guy.
He's a terrific guy.
Yeah.
He's just what you call a introvert.
Yes.
Over the years, he's become much more extroverted, but back then,
he was introverted.
Think about it, Rick. In the 70s, he was very introverted.
How was his diet back then?
He was a low-carb guy.
Right.
Very.
That I knew.
Yeah, he was low-carb. In fact, he adjusted his carbs so precisely that is exactly how he was able to transform his body from really. I remember when I said he was smooth. He had no hanging fat. You have to understand. There was just none of the fine details and the cuts and the fat. There was none of that.
Right.
But in other words, it's like raw material.
Right.
He looked like he had like a month to go.
Yeah, he just filled out.
He just filled out. And the funny thing that I credit Zane with is not only did he get ripped and shredded, but this is amazing. He didn't lose any muscle size.
No, not at all.
And that's a real credit to him. That's why they called him the chemist.
Yeah.
Because he somehow managed to completely harden his body, undergo this tremendous physical transformation, and yet lose very little muscle size, despite being on that same kind of diet, very, very low carbs.
Right. Now, Arnold, for example, was always thick.
Arnold was always thick, yeah. It's
big
true.
and thick, big chest, big arms.
Right.
His shoulders, everything. I mean, he just was thick all the time. I remember when he first came here, he was like around 260.
Right.
And we went on a commercial audition together. He had a pair of shorts and just a short sleeve button down shirt on. And I said, I'm going to go here. He says, I'm going to go down there. I'll meet you back at the car. And I saw him walking up La Cienega. You know how he walked that big clumsy knock-kneed walk of his.
Right.
With the short sleeve shirt on. He looked like a giant coming up the boulevard.
Right, right.
Who the hell is that guy?
Right.
But he trained heavy.
Yeah.
He trained heavy.
Right. What Arnold did now is his diet was a little bit different. See, Arnold never went to the very low carb stuff.
No.
Never. What he would do, very simple, was he would eat the same basic foods, but he would just reduce the amount he ate, so he'd lower his calories.
Right.
So, and Arnold was a little bit more freestyle than Zane, whereas Zane was very disciplined with the diet. Arnold, you might remember, if he felt like having a piece of apple strudel or something like that, even when he's training for a show, he would just, he didn't do it every day, but he would have it when...
He went on Saturday nights, we all went to the House of Pies.
Right, exactly.
The night before a show, it was and Draper and, I don't know, Columbu and a bunch of guys, and they'd have all this pie to eat.
Exactly. Yeah, Arnold was a believer in the junk days. Remember the junk day where we'd go off and eat whatever? He did do that. 1 or 2 days a week, he'd eat whatever he wanted.
Right. I don't think there were that many supplements back then.
No, very few. Liver tablets.
Yeah.
What else did they have? Liver tablet, brewer's yeast.
Okay, now you had Franco. Franco trained very heavy.
Very heavy. Very heavy. And the thing about Franco, and Mike Katz commented on this recently, nobody could train with Franco, if you remember. You see, it's a myth that Arnold and Franco were training partners. They would occasionally do certain exercises.
Like once in a while, they do some bench presses.
Yeah, and they like to do heavy deadlifts sometimes.
Yeah.
I remember them doing
or squats.
Yeah, squats too, yeah. But Franco almost always, think back, he always trained by himself. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because Franco had what some call a freestyle or a freestyle workout where he basically did what he felt like doing.
Yeah, I worked with him one day laying a brick chimney on Westwood.
Okay.
We drove up Wilshire Boulevard at 80 miles an hour in his Mustang.
Yeah, to try.
He's on the roof, I'm on the ground. He says, mix this cement and bring it up to me all day. And I was burnt out.
Wow.
So just go train now. I said, I can't go work out.
Yeah.
But I did go, and he trained like really heavy after the full day. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But he had a full-size upper body of a big man.
Right. Yeah, he had Franco's physique. I think it was Artie Zeller who once said this. Franco's torso was so thick and big, it would fit on a guy like 6 feet.
Yeah, exactly.
6 feet tall.
Exactly.
Remember, he was what, 5'4" or something like that? But his arms and his legs were proportionate to his height.
Right.
So he had this odd type of physique that, for that reason, a lot of people, like the famous 1981 Mr. Olympia, where it was between him, Platz, and Danny Padilla were the main guys. A lot of people felt that he shouldn't have won, that either Platz or Padilla should have won that year. And the main reason being is that Columbu wasn't symmetrical. In other words, his legs and his arms.
No, he
used to call him Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, he wasn't symmetrical. You're right. Now Waller trained really heavy.
Waller was another heavy guy.
And Waller did not watch his diet.
No, didn't watch his diet. And remember, Waller, a lot of people don't know this, but Waller came from a football background.
Right.
And if you know anything about football players in those days, you know, first of all, as Mike Katz also said, all athletes in the 60s were discouraged from lifting weights. You might remember. They said it would make you stiff and slow. In fact, it does just the opposite, because what they didn't realize then was the fast twitch muscle fibers. That's what give muscle speed.
Right.
That's what you work when you lift weights.
Right, right.
You know, that's why when I work with all the professional boxers like De La Hoya, I had them all lift weights, and they had the same fears. Oh, I can't lift weights. I won't be able to throw my punch. I said, just give it a shot. Give it. I remember 3 months after De La Hoya was lifting weights, I said, how's your speed, Oscar? He said, 20% faster. And remember, this is a guy whose hands were like Bruce Lee. You couldn't even see him throw a punch. You couldn't even see his hands. That's how fast he was when he threw punches. But anyway, Waller came from that football background, so he liked to do those heavy benches and heavy inclines, heavy squats. It was all the heavy stuff.
Heavy stuff.
And Waller was kind of a, remember that scene in Pumping Iron where he supposedly steals Mike Katz's T-shirt? You know, gave him the, that was a kind of a setup scene, I think. But
it was.
You know, it was. But the thing is, Waller, in some ways, was a little bit of a bully in the gym.
Oh, he always was.
Because I remember him going up to the squat rack, and there was a guy, I don't know whether he was doing squats or curls. You know how they sometimes do curls? And Waller goes up to him, and he says, how many more sets do you have? So the guy says 3. He says, no, you don't have any. You're done. Get out of here.
Was he managing the gym at that time?
He was managing the gym.
Yeah.
This guy was a skinny guy. He took one like a Waller with his 240 pounds.
Waller was like that. But he was your friend. He was a good guy.
Yeah.
He was big on eating chicken breast.
Yes.
Like cottage cheese mixed with honey.
You remember what we used to do at Dinah's?
At Dinah's.
There's a place called Dinah's Restaurant where they had a all-you-can-eat chicken night.
And they had pancakes.
And what was it? Apple pancakes?
Apple pancakes.
And the pancakes was the size. You see this table? It was the size of this table.
It's still there.
Right? I mean, it was the size like a sewer cover. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and almost nobody could finish it. Didn't Waller have a bet with somebody one time whether he could? It was a bet to see if he could finish the actual whole pancake, and he won.
He won.
He ate it. Waller had this tremendous appetite. He can eat a gigantic. When he'd eat chicken, he'd eat like 15, 20 pieces of chicken.
Yeah.
I couldn't even keep up with it.
Let me tell you something that Weeder did with Waller. Waller would get real heavy.
Right.
And he'd eat as much to blow his belly out, then Weeder would take a picture of him with his stomach out.
Yes! Right.
This would be the before picture.
Right, remember that?
And then when he was in a contest, he put the contest picture next to it. See, on my program, you can get in this shape if you do this.
Right. That's you can actually see that on the internet.
Yes, you can.
You can see Waller has this big bloated belly sticking out. That was when he used to eat the 26 pieces of chicken. You know. But
well, they all trained similar, different in some respects and similar in many.
Yeah.
It was basic weightlifting back in those days. There were no fancy machines or anything like that. And the diet was high protein, low carb. And some guys just ate a lot of carbs. And you know, your metabolism, everybody's different. So what are you going to do?
But then there's another thing, Rick, and that's the myths that I've been reading over the years in the magazines and on the internet these days, where you see the claims that Arnold trained 10 hours a day, and all the guys in the old original Golds would come in there for 6-7 hours.
Yeah, I've had
oh, come on, please. You know, you and I were there. What was it? The average workout was maybe 2 hours at tops. At tops.
Yeah, and that's with a lot of talking.
Right, and here's what a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
You know, earlier I mentioned that the guys would train really hard about 3 months before a show. That's when they'd really pick it up 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, no nonsense, very fast, very hard. But what a lot of people don't know is the rest of the year they didn't train like that. Remember that expression, the Zane workout? That we used to laugh about that. It was because Frank Zane, remember, he was teaching. He had a lot of things going on. He would come in the off season and do a workout. You could time it on the clock that was no more than 20 minutes. Yeah. He'd do like 3 or 4 exercises and leave. Arnold did a little bit more than that, but he also, I don't think he was in the gym even 45 minutes.
No. You know, sometimes come back in the afternoon.
Yeah, sometimes, but the one thing, think back, the one thing that Arnold always trained hard year round was the calves. He always did the same. He trained the calves all year like he was training for a show.
Yeah.
Because he just didn't want to lose them.
Right.
So.
Well, the 6 hour thing and 8 hours in the gym, like you guys had asked about. If anybody did that, they'd be the size of a piece of string.
Exactly, especially if you're drug free.
Yeah, you can't train like that. Even with drugs, you can't stay like that.
No.
But that's pretty much what they did back then. I mean, everybody had their different things, and it was fun to watch, and you learned a lot from doing that. Let's talk about your newsletter for a minute.
Okay, the newsletter.
It's up to you.
All right, yeah. Well, the newsletter is called Applied Metabolics Newsletter, and basically what this is, I'm going to say right now that, I wrote for magazines for 35 years, and the writing that I'm doing now for this newsletter, I have to say, in retrospect, there's been 5 issues. There's 5 issues online now. Is the best I've ever done, and the reason for that is because when I wrote for the magazines, I was always limited in what I could write. I had to I couldn't write certain things because it would irritate advertisers. This newsletter tells the whole truth. It clarifies every misconception you can have about nutrition and diet, and I'm trying to cover the waterfront because I have stuff not only for bodybuilding but for general health. I have articles on anti-aging, preventing cancer, preventing heart disease, all the latest research, and a lot of stuff on ergogenic aids, a little bit of stuff about steroids. Like one article I remember we talked about was how a recent pro bodybuilder, I listed his exact drug program and diet before the Mr. Olympia, and this particular program that he used, I listed in concise detail, got him in the very best shape. He never looked that good before or since.
Right.
He's retired now, but the thing is, I basically cover everything, and I would warn people that this is not a newsletter. I call it a newsletter. So that kind of irritates me, the word newsletter.
Yeah.
Because when you think of newsletter, you think of like 2-page piece of garbage.
Yeah.
This thing, the issues have been an average of 30 and up to 40 pages each.
Yeah, it's not really a newsletter.
Yeah, it's an ebook.
Yeah,
it's more of an ebook, really. Right. So I took newsletter because, for want of a better term. But the thing is, this is not for somebody who has like a 10-second attention span, who loses track after about a 2 sentence.
Yeah.
Don't even bother. This is for people that want in-depth information that will teach them and prevent them from making mistakes,
right,
and allow them to reach the maximum. I just finished an article for the February issue. In the first issue, I did a article on the complete guide to natural bodybuilding nutrition. In that article, I wrote everything you need to know for a natural bodybuilder who's not taking drugs. Doesn't have to be a competitive bodybuilder. How to get in the best shape of your life. Every supplement, every type of diet to reduce fat to a maximum, build muscle size to maximum. Now, in this, the one I just finished, now I handle the training part. It's like a massive article, to say that, because I covered everything. Every known training technique, all the little tricks and secrets, all the stuff that doesn't work, it's all in one article. Somebody who follows this game plan, let's say, using the diet article and the training article, I absolutely guarantee that they will reach the genetic limits of their muscular. How big you can get, we all know, is based on genetics.
Yes.
Not everyone could be an Arnold or a Dorian Yates or one of those guys, or who's the current guy? I can't even remember his name.
Yeah, there's so many of them nowadays.
Anyway, but they not everyone could be that, whether they take drugs or not. But if you use this is the correct system. And I also point out in my article, remember, there's no one, and I think you'll agree with this, Rick, and it kind of ties to what we were talking about here. There is no one best routine for everyone. That's another myth. Mm-hmm. In other words, where somebody tries to promulgate this thing where do these particular exercises, it's the best for everyone. That's nonsense.
Not true.
Because we all have different biomechanics, different muscle insertions, and different genetic response to exercise. Okay. So, but what you can have is a basic plan. In other words, you choose the exercises based on your structure, on what you can do.
Right.
But how you employ these exercises and the kind of system you use, that's what makes the difference. That's what prevents you from, let's say, slipping into overtraining, losing muscle. So that's the kind of stuff.
It's very easy to overtrain.
Very easy.
Now, this newsletter, what, $10 a month?
$10 a month.
$10 a month is like nothing.
33 cents a day.
Yeah, 33 cents a day.
Right.
Now, I want to say something here, because, Jerry, you've written for magazines for years. I've written for bodybuilding.com and Muscle Fitness for years. We never received one penny from those magazines.
Well, I got paid for my articles.
Yes, but it's not a whole lot of money.
No.
Not amount to the amount of work you put forth. Okay?
No.
I've done 880 of these shows without a dime.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now I had to buy lights. I got a set. I bought a new computer for $2,500. I got a new editing machine. these things cost money to keep going, and then you go and you charge for something, and people, you guys are great viewers, every one of you. There's a small percentage that complain about, oh, we got to pay for the magazine. Yes, there's no free lunch in life, you know, and we put our time in, we put 50 years into this, and why shouldn't we make some money back?
You know what I like to do? I've gotten that already, even with the newsletter. I mean, there was a guy on Facebook when I put a little ad for the newsletter on there, and you know, he went to my site, and then he came back and he wrote a comment. He says, you're charging for it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm thinking, I spend hours. I mean, like each one of these articles I'm writing, like I'm reading sometimes 50, 60 research papers. Those research papers aren't free, pal. Plus the amount of time I spent setting up, the money, it cost me money to set up the web. There's all kinds of expenses involved, like you just pointed out. So here's what I say to the people that complain on the internet about being charged. When you go to work, whatever your job is, do you get paid? Of course, the person will look at you like you're crazy. Of course I get paid.
Yes.
I need to live, don't I?
Right.
Oh, I know. Well, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Why are you accepting pay for your work? Isn't that wrong? And the person will look at you like, you know. I said, but aren't you doing the same thing with somebody? Now, if you put work into something, you deserve to be paid. And I'll go even further. I think anyone, this is going to be a little bit, some people might not like this statement I'm about to make, but I have to say it. Anyone who puts a considerable, significant amount of work and money into something and just throws it on the internet, I think they're crazy. I think they're out of their freaking minds. Because what's the motivation? Psychology 101. For behavior to continue, and this is they showed this in rats all the way to humans. For behavior to continue, there has to be some sort of motivation, and what that means in real life is for you to work at a job, you have to get paid. Imagine if every job in the world where the person who the boss says, "Hey, from now on, we're not paying you anything." How many people would continue to go to that
Nobody
job?
would go to work.
There you go.
It's the same thing here. You know, I put a video up on YouTube as my training program for $1.99 or 99 cents just to rent it. Okay, that's nothing. But if I was to train somebody in the gym, or any trainer is going to charge you $65 a session, it adds up to a lot of money every month. So I've had several people ask me, show us your workout, especially 40 guys in 40s, 50s, and 60s. How do you stay in shape? What do you do over injuries? And I really put time into this thing, and I put it together and I put it on there. Okay, I've gotten sales off it, but I've had a lot of people say, why are you charging it? It shouldn't be paid for. And you know, this is that. I said to somebody, I said years ago when we watched TV, they said one day you're going to have paid TV. I said, oh, that's never going to happen. Now we got cable, $132 a month, right? So the point is that everybody has to have some sort of an income. At my age now, I'm kind of retired. What's $1, for God's sake? You're going to complain about a stinking dollar? You want to take me out and buy me lunch and I'll give you a routine, it'll cost you $20, you know? So if you're going to complain about it and really don't like it, then turn it off. But we're doing this for you guys, and so I'm not saying that I'm charging for these things, but every once in a while I might come out with something really unique that's totally different that I put a lot of time into for $1. Come on.
Well, that's a good point, because you mentioned a very good analogy, the cable TV. Now, what's the difference between cable TV and free TV? Of course, besides the lack of advertisements, with cable TV, because you're paying for it, they are more or less forced to give you a higher standard of programming. In other words, there's things that you see on cable TV that you'll never see on regular pay TV. And it's the same with this. In other words, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that everything on the internet should be charged for. No. I mean, there's some things that there's no work went into it. I mean, it took the person 5 minutes. You know, if that person, you know, whether it's one of these blogs or something, if they want to put that on and feel, I have no problem with that. What I'm talking about, and what you're talking about, I believe, is something that somebody really put a lot of work into. Like I do with my newsletter, what you do with your videos. This is not something we just sit around. There's a lot of work involved behind the scenes that people don't even know.
No, they don't even know. There's 50 years of knowledge that you have to reach back and pull forward. I have to get people out here as guests like yourself. I had superstars like Stone Cold Steve Austin, and people like that. And you know, you throw them a few bucks for coming out and sitting out here, and it adds up. But I mean, just to do editing and sit here and put this stuff together, you take 3 or 4 or 5 hours. That's an hour by the hour. It adds up.
Sure, it does.
So when you, I mean, I don't mind doing this stuff and giving it out there. But like I say, if I had something specific like a training video and the history and talking to these guys on person about how you go through injury and here's what you should do and here's what you should do, took a lot of time. So what's $1 or $2 or $1.99 or 99 cents?
Absolutely.
It's so don't complain. But if you do complain and you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. Trust me, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. I have other ways of doing stuff, and that's where it's at.
That's it.
So I want to thank you guys for watching Risk Corner. Jerry's going to come back with some other subjects, and we'll give you all the up-to-date info. So stay tuned for more.
Hope you enjoyed the video brought to you by Old School Labs. Use my discount code Grayson12 on the link below at oldschoollabs.com. Hey everyone, now you can have the Gold's Gym logo drawn by me, the artist Rick Drayson, personalized and made out to you and signed by me to frame and put on your gym wall or wherever you see fit to do so. It's a piece of bodybuilding history. It will never be duplicated again. It's the largest selling icon t-shirt logo in the world, and I'm the guy that drew it, and I will draw it for you. Just go to my website, rickdrayson.com, and order there. You can pay through PayPal, and it'll be sent out right away. And be sure to watch Rick's Corner for all the videos on bodybuilding, nutrition, fitness, pro wrestling, and anything that suits your interest as far as getting physically fit and being the best you can be from the golden era of bodybuilding.
He's the equalizer, baby. See you next time.